Good morning, friends and family. I am Coach Jay. I am an intrapersonal relationship coach, and what I do is help people help themselves, the relationship with themselves. Because I always say the relationship you have with yourself sets the tone and standard for all other relationships around you. I always like to start my classes with a corny dad joke, and today's is, what do you call a belt made out of $100 bills? You call a belt made out of $100 bills a waste of money. Okay. If you'd like to or can, take 2 deep healing breaths with me. Usually that's in through the nose, out through the mouth, preferably with your eyes closed. But if you're not comfortable, certainly you can do this with your eyes open. So 1 deep breath in and out through the mouth. And one more time, in through the nose and out through the mouth. Sometimes I call this pizza breathing. So it's like when you order pizza and it's nice and hot, you breathe in the hot pizza and you enjoy that beautiful smell of all the whatever you like on it, onions, pepperoni, cheese, but it's a little too hot to eat. So you have to cool it off by blowing it off nice and slowly. All right, anyways, this class is meant to be pretty lighthearted. There was a recent study or poll asking 25 people who have been married for 25 years plus about what makes their relationship work. Cliches didn't enter the equation. Instead, their answers reflected a simple truth. Long-term relationships are both easy and hard, but made better by honesty, fun, and a shared sense of unity. I am just going to, it doesn't matter. They urged communication and clarity. They underscored the importance of shared meals and spicing things up with, maybe some intimate jokes and what have you. They emphasized appreciation and attention to detail. Today, I would like to share with you these findings. And here's what they said. And hopefully it'll help you either in the short or long run. So basically, number 1, accept and allow. This is a mantra, and again, this is what somebody said, Lynn, 62 from Florida. This is a mantra I picked up early on in our marriage, and it's one my husband and I have come to live by. I forget where I heard it, but it's basically a nice way of saying, you know who your partner was when you got married, and you can't change them. There are many things I wished I could change about my husband after we were married for a little while, but I realized I loved him. And it was a waste of time to dwell on them. I needed to accept him for who he was and allow him to be himself. That doesn't mean we can't get upset or voice our concerns. It just means that we're committed unconditionally to the person that we're married to, even if that means they drive us crazy. I'm not going to be talking much about betrayal in this class, just an FYI. This class is primarily for people that are married or want some tools in their tool belt for the next relationship, some ways that they can be successful. Number 2, the next person said, I like to imagine my life without my partner. My wife and I talk about this all the time. We imagine what our toughest days would be like without each other. Truthfully, we always agree that we'd make it through. Realistically, we're each independent and strong enough that we'd be fine, but it would be terrible. That's the takeaway. Life would be possible without each other, but it wouldn't be anywhere near as fun, special, full of great moments. It's not uncommon for us to ask each other, can you imagine if I wasn't here? The answer is usually some variation of, yeah, it would suck. I'm glad you are. And again, this is for people that have experienced some type of challenge, difficulty, trial, betrayal, tribulation in the relationship, but they have worked on it or are working on it, and they're looking for those rocking chair senior years. Number 3, crack jokes. We got married when we were both 40, and our sense of humor has gotten more juvenile over the year. Maybe it's just us, but I don't think so. We laugh at rude noises. We roll our eyes at each other's terrible jokes. We love raunchy movies. It's just the primitive human sense of humor that we both have. So many couples seem to lose that the longer they stay married. There's this weird pressure to become more civilized or dignified as you get older. We never got that memo, however. And it's just the two of us. We keep cracking each other up with jokes. We've stayed in love so long because we're too busy laughing to be fighting. And that was David, who was 68 in Michigan, married 30 years.
Mm.
Or choose your own adventure. My marriage has never been easy, but it's always been an adventure. The best advice I can give is getting married is like going to a theme park. Know who you are and what ride you want to go on. If you want to go on the carousel, which has stability and serenity, marry that. If you want to go on a roller coaster, which is somebody that takes risks and is adventurous, don't marry somebody who's afraid of speed and heights. The key is to know yourself and what you want before you pledge to a partnership. Then, once you've found your match, run your marriage like good company. Identify each person's strengths and weaknesses and delegate those responsibilities accordingly. That was from Kathleen, who's 57 from Nebraska, married 31. Don't be so darn stubborn. Don't insist on always having the last word. It's never not worth it. What you think is fundamental, a bedrock principle, might actually be just a personal preference, not worth having a spat or holding a grudge about. Be open to that possibility. Even if you get your own way, it'll take a toll. And if you agree to something, abide by that mutual decision. The loss of trust is also not worth getting your own way. We've learned to be responsible and to take ownership of our decisions and actions. And we always try to avoid criticizing or guilting. It never helps. Instead, we try to have constructive conversations about specific behaviors that might be troubling, and we're each willing to listen to each other's concerns, even if those concerns seem trivial. And that was from Claude, who's 68. She's been married 33 years.
Mm-hmm.
Number 6, do the work. Everyone has heard of the phrase opposites attract, but you don't really hear the rest of the phrase, which is opposites attract. And they also keep people together. Now, there's another phrase I also heard one time is opposites attract, but they don't stick. So I guess which one applies to you? They can, though, if you want to learn how to navigate them. Opposites can create a great deal of conflict over time if you don't learn how to accept them. It could be a difficult process, but it's necessary to stay happily married long term. Good marriages don't just happen. No, they don't. They require a great deal of work and attention. The English language has one word for love. I love my spouse and I love my spicy food. There's really no comparison to the two. Since the term I love you is so confusing and vague, it makes sense to define what it means to both of you, even if you're total opposites. And that comes from Monty, who's 64 in Florida. He's married 40 years. Number 7, bite your tongue. My rule is this: bite your tongue for at least 24 to 48 hours before speaking when tensions are high. If you're overly emotional and or upset about something, doing so gives you time to cool off and reflect on the situation with greater space, perspective, calmness, and clarity. If you still want to talk about it, schedule a mutually agreed time to do so. Say something like, I'm upset about something you did or something you said, but I want to think about it before we talk. And mentally, I want to be in a better place. So can we talk, tonight at 6 or after dinner or what have you? And that comes from Romy, who's 52 in California, married 26 years. Number 8, you won't always be on the same page. Lord knows you will not be. No, I always say people come to their marital table or the relationship table with their own experiences, their own education, their own examples, their own this, their own that. So, you're kind of merging two different worlds together. You're going to be more not on the same page than more on the same page. Anyways, and that's okay. Patience and communication are key to any successful relationship, but especially a long-term one. It's important to remember that you're not always going to agree on everything. There will be times when you need to listen more than you talk, and times when you need to communicate open and honestly. You can do this by making time for each other, even when life gets busy. Whether it's taking a walk after dinner or spending a weekend away together, do everything you can to keep that bond strong. A lot of times our challenges in a relationship come when when intimacy goes out. And when I mean intimacy, I don't mean anything about sex, although sex could be included in intimacy, but intimacy is just that into-me-see. Does the person I'm with, do they get me? Do they understand my soul? Do they accept my weaknesses, my flaws? Are they willing to ride the train that I'm on with me into the future? And that's a tight bond that nobody should have except the two people in the relationship. Um, Always make time for each other. Like I just said, even when time gets busy. Number 9, keep each other guessing. My husband is a quiet man. Me, not so much. I was surprised when he told me how much he loves the fact that he never knows what I'm going to do from one minute to the next. And I appreciate his willingness to try different things. As our unofficial social secretary, I've planned trips where he wasn't really known where we're going until we got off the plane. Our secret really is just keeping safe and our life interesting, which I don't know how she did this when nowadays, like everybody's always talking about, oh, destination to this plane is this and go to this gate for this destination, but whatever. This is Carol. She's 72 from Georgia. So I'm guessing when she traveled, things weren't as they are today. Our secret really has been just keeping life interesting. Otherwise, life becomes stale and boring. Doing something unexpected from time to time, you'll learn how much you cherish each other's company. That is very true, because think about it, man, it's like after you are with somebody for 20, 30, 40 years, it's like you wake up in the morning and roll your head over and see that same face and say, oh, you again? So you gotta, variety is the spice of life, especially in a long-term relationship, because it can get stale and boring. So you got to spice things up periodically. Number 10, ask for space when you need it. I think many couples are afraid to say, hey, I need some time alone. I need some time away from you. And just on a side note, I am one of those people. Like, for instance, if I'm going through something difficult, if I'm experiencing like a close family death or something that's anything where I'm emotional, I want to be left alone. I want to be in my room. I want to be left alone. I need time to process. My spouse, on the other hand, complete opposite. My spouse wants to process and talk and talk and talk. And so, we had to kind of bridge those things together. When one of us is emotional, we need to be left alone. When the other one's emotional, we need to engage. Relationships are all about, building those bridges to each other to constantly get to know one another, especially because we're ever changing people. We are human beings, but we're human evolvements. We're not the same people we were 5 years ago. We're not going to be the same person we are today, 5 years from today. We have to constantly get to know ourselves and constantly get to know the person that we're with. I think many couples are afraid to say, like I said, I need some time. They worry that their partner will take it personally, and so they avoid the conversation completely. Early in our courtship, we were very clear with each other about the fact that we would not survive marriage if we couldn't have our own space. We were not shy with each other when we needed a breather. Sometimes it's just a few hours with a good book. Other times, one of us wants to get coffee and run errands on a Saturday alone. The key is to be respectful about this request, considering any commitments that you might have and using time to recharge yourself for the betterment of the relationship. This is from Kirk, who's 64 in Southern California. I'm sorry, South Carolina. Maybe it's time I need glasses. And another thing too, especially as you age and kind of life might slow down a little bit, or maybe you retire. It's good to do things without your significant other, because then when you come back, you have something to talk about. Hey, check out what happened to me at the grocery store today. When you're always with each other, you don't really have stories to share. Learn each other's love language. I'm huge about this as an interpersonal relationship coach. I'm very big on love languages. Any act of love that's done with the best intentions is good, but knowing how your partner prefers to receive those gestures can make them even more special. My wife has 2 love languages, and they are quality time and acts of service. Over the course of our marriage, I've learned how happy it makes her when I help out around the house. Simple things like unloading the dishwasher or flipping the laundry make her so happy. And because I pitch in, we work as a team. We're able to spend more quality time together. You can take the tests of love languages to figure out what love languages is yours if you don't know it. That's easy. The fun part is finding out how you can try to speak your partner using their love language every day. And this is from Gene, 52, from Massachusetts. He's been married 28 years. I'm going to add something to what Gene said. There's not only love languages, but there's actually personalities of love languages. So if you're not familiar with love languages, there's actually personalities of love languages. If you're not familiar with the personalities of love language, I'll just give you an example. Some people have a love language of gifts. So a gift to one person, their personality of love language with gifts might be, I need something that speaks to me. Like I want something that you give me that tells me you were thinking of me, that I like, that's significant to me, that maybe is significant, a gift, whatever. Another person's love language is literally, they could be handed a pebble and the person could say, I was just walking outside and I saw this pebble and it reminded me of, your heart is so dear and so kind, whatever. So really, even love languages have their own personalities, but I can get into that in another class. Number 12, always kiss goodnight. And Lord, this could be difficult, especially if you have tension at night, and especially if you have kids or an arrangement where you cannot discuss things during the day. We have two young kids. So anytime we want to discuss something is at night. Well, sometimes when you discuss something at night, that's where tension gets heated. The last thing you want to do is kiss somebody goodnight after you just had a heated dialogue. But according to Renee 60 from Texas, who's been married 31 years, she says, in all of our years, I think there's been maybe a dozen times my husband and I haven't kissed each other goodnight. Even when we had terrible, terrible arguments, we always kiss each other on the cheek or on the forehead, just as a way to remind each other that we're going to get through this. When you don't want to talk to someone because you're so angry, it could be hard to say, I love you. Sometimes you just don't have the voice, but a quick kiss can say a lot. And for us, it has. So if it's within your dynamics and if it's within you, kiss goodnight. But, sometimes, the last thing you want to do is be with the person you're with that you just had an argument with. And so next thing you know, you're sleeping on like the seam of the edge of the mattress because they're not even going to get your body heat. You're just so aggravated with them. Number 13, which, something, I might have to make this a 2 of 2 class because I'm only on 13 and there's supposed to be 25 of these and I'm already over halfway done with my class. So I might have to make this as part 2, but I'll try and get through a lot of these all the time. Be patient with your spouse and yourself. You need to be flexible in marriage. You need to understand that if you and your partner truly love each other, you're not deliberately trying to make things difficult. But inevitably, there will come times when you just can't agree. And those times you need to remember that both of you are only human. We used to get upset with one another and beat ourselves up pretty badly because we'd think, I should be better than this. And our marriage suffered because of that. It wasn't until we were able to extend grace to ourselves and each other and remind ourselves that we're both still learning how to be better every day and that we really grow as a couple. That was Ray from New York. Number 14, never assume. I haven't even read this, but I actually like this already because I always say the word assume, A-S-S-U-M-E. When you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. Assume. If your partner is upset with you, don't assume you know why. If he or she is quiet, don't assume you know why. If you're upset, don't assume he or she knows why. You have to remember that no matter how connected you both may be, you're not mind readers. You need to communicate as clearly as possible and as frequently as possible. Give yourself and others permission to say you'd rather wait to talk about things, but always let your partner know that you don't want to assume, because you don't want to assume what's going on. So many people respond from the assumptions that they've ran through their own filter. And next thing you know, you got this conversation all over the board that, nobody's even identifying with or connecting to or with. I'm going to rush through some of these because we're running low on time, unfortunately. Number 15, nurture the friendship. Remember, your partner is also your friend. Not every conversation you should have has to be about life decisions or being married. I love my marital relationship with my wife, but I dare to say that I love our friendship even more. When we get to spend time together as, quote, friends, we laugh, we joke, we remember why we're such a good team, and that helps with our marriage. You wouldn't want to be on a team with anyone other than your friend, would you? A marriage is the same idea, and it's for the rest of your life. So make sure you always try to make time for that one-of-a-kind friendship. I'm not going to tell you who it's from, where they're from, or how long they've been married, just for a lack of time. I'm just going to go on. 16, talk every single day, even if it's just a hello in the morning or a good night before bed, or even a text or an email to say hello. Don't ever let a day go by that you don't talk to your spouse. For me, even on the worst days, hearing my husband's voice is reassurance. I know he feels the same way. We might not be able to talk to each other, but we even know that we're in a committed relationship, and we will try to text or email, even if it's a short sentence or a word. For both of us, silence is not an option. And because of that, we find our way back to each other every single time. Like I said, you got to build bridges. Number 17, have your own hobbies. One of the things my wife and I love about each other is our respective passions. She's an amazing painter, and I love building things. She has room downstairs where she goes and paints hours at a time. And so I'm so excited for her to open the door and invite me in to see what she's created. She feels the same way when I come in from the garage with a newly stained chair or a birdhouse or something that I've worked on. We love talking to each other about our passions, and they give us so many chances to support each other as spouses and partners. Number 18, don't look for flaws, which I always say, I took psychology 101. Whatever you look for, you will find. You want to find some kind of discrimination out there, you want to see it, you want to find, whatever you look for, you will find. You want to find your partner trying to disrespect you, you're going to find it. Simple as that. If you actively look for your partner for flaws, you will find them, because no one's perfect and they're definitely there. Why would anyone want to look for flaws, right? Well, we both found ourselves doing that during some rough patches in our marriage. It was almost like we were playing gotcha with each other, trying to prove each other was wrong. It took a while to figure out, but we realized that we needed to work together against whatever problem we were facing instead of using it as an excuse to work against each other. I'm going to quickly browse this because but I always say, do your best to try to reframe your thought process to not attack one another, but together attack the issues. Number 19, stay intimate. Intimacy is much more than sex. And as you get older, that's a great thing to realize. It's holding each other's hands, making sure to give each other a kiss before you leave in the morning, and as soon as you get home at night. It's turning off your phones and just enjoying each other's company. We still make love, we still all do those things, but the intimacy we strive for takes place more outside the bedroom than inside. And like I said before, intimacy is intimacy. Do you know my flaws? Do you know my weaknesses? Do you support them? Do you encourage them? Do you love me in spite of them? Number 20, eat together. It sounds like a given, but both my wife and I come from families that never sat down to eat together. When we started dating, we realized that sharing a meal was and still is our favorite thing to do. But breakfast is kind of rushed, and we're both at work for lunch, so we rarely have anything during the day, but we try not to do anything that will disrupt our dinner plans. Even if it's just a crappy takeout dinner, we still find time to sit down and have dinner together. Number 21, communicate your needs. Otherwise, your partner will be guessing. We kind of covered this before on don't assume. So for lack of time, I'm just going to skip this one. Number 22, show gratitude. I have a certificate of through the science of happiness through the University of Berkeley in California. And I took a class there on happiness. And the number one thing that I learned is that there is a direct link of internal happiness and gratitude and appreciation. So I like this one already. Show gratitude. My husband and I are overthinkers. I love this. Not overthinkers, overthinkers. That's what we call it. We always like to do things and tell each other, go overboard to show each other how we thank each other. Sometimes it's obvious if no one else gives each other a gift for a special occasion. We don't look at that. We try to look at the intentions. And I always say, don't look at people's behavior, try to look at people's intentions. Number 23, learn to apologize. Even if you don't come from a family that's used to apologizing, learn to apologize. I'm going to skim these now because we're running down low. Don't keep score. As I said before, it's not a matter of it's your fault, you shouldn't have done this, whatever. Don't attack each other. Together, attack the issues. Choose your stress. Life offers a tremendous amount of stress. Life offers a tremendous amount of anxiety. Our oh Lord, I can't think of the term. Anyways, our system doesn't differentiate between good stress and bad stress. So really choose your stress. And I'm just going to end here because lack of time, and I do have a session coming up. But I hope you got something out of this class, and I appreciate your time.